In this module, I'm going to show you how to give a simple demo of thin provisioning. With 3PAR, it's very straightforward and does not require any additional work. To demonstrate, I'm going to use the 3PAR Store Serve Management Console, or SSMC for short. Customers currently have the option to use a couple of different tools for management, but for our demo, I'm going to use SSMC since this is the main tool moving forward. What I'm showing here is a browser that we will connect to the SSMC server. This is new compared to the current management console. With SSMC, users can connect from any browser, including Macs or even their favorite smartphone or tablet device. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to go to my browser and enter my 3PAR credentials. And when I log in, I'll get this nice pretty little dashboard which gives me a lot of high-level information about my systems I'm connected to. So let's start from the upper left-hand corner. I see that I'm connected to two 3PAR systems here. I can dig deeper by clicking on this hyperlink, and then I'll see the two 3PAR arrays I'm connected to. So in this case, I'm connected to a 7200, and then I'm connected to another 7200 as well. And if I want, I can go back to where I was before on the dashboard by clicking on this mega menu. So this mega menu is something you'll soon be very intimately familiar with. So this is where you go to navigate across your SSMC. So it's kind of like the start button on a Windows server. So if I go here to the mega menu, I click on it, I have a lot of various options to choose from. So let's go back to our dashboard here and take a look again at what we have. So again, on our dashboard, we have a lot of high-level information. We can look at the performance at a high level. We can look at the total capacity at a high level and how they're broken down. We can look at the allocated capacity. We can look at the capacity efficiency, which includes overall compaction rate, which is deduplication, thin provisioning, thin reclamation, and also snapshot efficiency. There's also device type capacity where I can go down and dig deep into the breakdown of how my devices in terms of capacity is used. And finally, you have historical capacity that you can view as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of high-level information that you can view from the dashboard, as well as detailed information if you dig deep into any one of these categories. But for our purposes, we're going to go in and create a brand new virtual volume from our 3PAR array. So let's go ahead and go back to our mega menu, and again, from this mega menu, you'll notice that there's a lot of various categories you can choose from. It's broken down into these columns where it says general, which gives you a lot of high-level general information, and that's where the dashboard is. We have block persona, which is our traditional block-based type of provisioning that you're probably used to in any block type of storage array. We also now have a file persona, which is new, and it's not shown here because we don't have any 3PAR arrays that we're connected to that has the NAS capability. But if you are connected to a 3PAR array that has a NAS capability, you'll see another column that says file persona, which gives you the ability to do NAS functions. Next on the column, you see storage systems, which gives you a lot of physical information on your 3PAR array. You have system reporter that can give you a lot of nice reports and graphs. You have replication, and you have security. But again, our purposes here is to create a brand new 3PAR volume. So let's go ahead and go down to block persona and choose virtual volumes. And now we're in the virtual volumes menu, and you'll notice on the left hand column is a list of all of our volumes across both of our arrays. So you can actually sort these volumes by name or by system. So if you click on system here, they're going to be sorted alphabetically between G1 Rack 5 and G2 Rack 5. Those are the names of the two 3PAR arrays that we're connected to. So we're showing all the volumes across two systems on purpose because 3PAR's vision is for storage federation, where we actually blur the lines between separate physical 3PAR arrays, and we look at it from a view of one single big pool of storage across multiple physical arrays. So that's why we show all the volumes in one sitting. If you want though, you can actually separate that out, and that's simple enough. There's a natural global filter. By clicking on this button down here, you can see that you can separate between the various 3PAR arrays, where if I click on G2 Rack 5, it'll only show me volumes from this array. If I choose this other array, it'll show me both. And then if I go ahead and filter out additional options, I can see that I can separate base volumes from virtual copies, from physical copies, and various types of provisioning volumes as well. So in our case, we're going to leave it wide open and keep it at both systems. And I'm going to go ahead and close this filter. So up to this point, I haven't actually created anything yet. I've only navigated the SSMC tool to show the customer various high-level and detailed information that's available to them. Next, we want to create a virtual volume, but prior to doing so, what we want to do is let the customer know that creating a virtual volume is easy on the 3-part array, not because of the number of clicks. It's not about 10 clicks versus 5 clicks versus 2 clicks with 3-part. For us, it's easy because you don't have to go in and do a lot of pre-planning work. So with 3-part, we can go in and have minimal clicks, but at the same time, it doesn't take weeks of advanced planning to go in day one and create a volume. So hopefully it'll be apparent to them when they see this that we go in, and you want to make sure you frame it as if this array that you're managing in front of them is a brand new 3-part array, and it's exactly what they're going to go in and do when they power up their 3-part array. They're not going to have to do any planning. They're just simply going to go into the SSMC or whatever tool they prefer and go in and do exactly what you're about to show them. So let's proceed and create a virtual volume. To do so, there are multiple ways of doing it. The easiest way would be to go up to this button right here and say create a virtual volume. There's another trick that I'll show you where you go to the search menu, and in a traditional search you can type in various objects to search for, like volumes to search for, or CPGs to search for, or servers to search for. But you can also search for commands. So for example, if I want to type in create, it gives me a list of commands where I can create these various objects, including virtual volumes, right? So that's where I can go in and say, hey, create a virtual volume with this command. But let's just go to the traditional route and click on create virtual volume. This is probably most likely what other customers and other people would do. As I click on that button, I'll have this menu and it'll say, okay, give me a name. So let's give a name here for our volume. We'll call it demo vol 1. You choose the system that you want to create the volume on. Any one of these systems would do. And then you select the provisioning type. Let's go ahead and choose thin provision because that is what we always want to encourage customers to do. It's very efficient. There's no extra overhead. 3-part built this from the ground up, so there's no trade-offs. There's no extra hoops to jump through. There's no best practices. We always say use thin provisioning. It's fantastic. Next, we choose the CPG. So hopefully at this point you have explained to the customer what a CPG is, but simply a CPG is a list of drive type and RAID type templates that you want for your volume. So when you have a brand new 3-part array, you can have some defaults depending on what type of drives you have. So for example, I have fast class RAID 1, fast class RAID 5, SSD RAID 1, SSD RAID 5, and nearline RAID 1. So I can choose any one of these that I want. These are defaults. I can also go in and create my own. But let's go ahead and choose a default template, and let's say we want to put this on fast class RAID 1. And then we give it a size. Let's just choose some arbitrary size. 350 gigs should be fine. And now at this point we are done. We can go ahead and say create, and we'll have our volume and we can move on. But I quickly want to show customers usually some additional options that they have. So if I click on edit additional settings, they do have the option of putting their snapshots on a lower tier. So it's already defaulted to the tier that I chose my base volume on, but if I want to choose a lower, cheaper tier to put my snapshots on, I can choose a copy CPG of a different type. So I click here, and let's say I want to choose nearline RAID 1 for my cheaper tier for my snapshots. I can do that. And then I'll skip everything else and I'll go down here to export. So if I want, I can also present this volume right away and export it to any server I would like. So let's go ahead and say add, which means I want to add a server, and there's only 2 to choose from, so I will choose this Windows server. I will say add, and I will say create. And now I have my volume, demo vol 1. I can highlight that, and all the characteristics that I just chose is right there. And at this point, I'm done with my volume creation, so I can show the customer the detailed information of my volume. I can also click on this arrow here, which expands the view and shows me a comparison between all my volumes. And so for this specific volume, it's a base volume, it's thin, it's 350 gigs. 0% has been used because, again, we're using thin provisioning, which does not consume any capacity unless data is written. Here is the RAID type and drive type, and it's already exported to a single host. So just like that, we created a volume without having to pre-plan, without having to configure anything. The array gets powered up from day one. There's no pools to create. The customer can at will go ahead and create a volume, and now they can move on. The next module will show you how to demonstrate thin persistence to a customer. Thin persistence is the ability to reclaim space on the storage array after data has been deleted by the OS. There are many ways of achieving this. One way is to use the T10 unmap to allow the OS to automatically tell the array to reclaim space as data is deleted. However, not all OS versions support this. The other option is to physically write zeros over the deleted space. This option is what we'll show in our demo. 3PAR has the unique ability to offload this function to the ASIC where zeros are filtered in line, therefore there's no capacity or performance overhead when reclaiming the space back. Before you start your demo, you want to make sure that you are prepped and have all the necessary licenses and apps in place. So let's go ahead and go back to our dashboard and click on our arrays. So I'm going to click on storage systems. And for the particular array I'm going to demo this on, I'm going to choose this. And then I'm going to change the view to licenses, and then we're going to take a look at the licenses that is available on this array. As I scroll down, I see that I do have thin persistence, and I can even get a description of what that is, and so we're good to go on this array. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your volume has zero detect enabled. It is enabled by default, but let's go ahead and just make sure. So to check that zero detect is enabled for our volume, we simply go up to the dashboard and we'll go back to our virtual volumes menu. And then we'll go to our volume, demo vol 1. That's the same volume we created earlier. And this time we're going to go to actions, and then we will edit. And this menu will come up and we will select advanced option because that's where the zero detect option is located. And now we scroll down and we see that the policy shows here that zero detect is in fact enabled. So we are good to go for our volume. Just keep in mind that for older OSs, zero detect may not be default. So you should always check to make sure that it is default for your demo. Okay, we're going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our host, make sure that our host is prepared as well. So I'm going to minimize my browser. And this is the same host that I exported my volume to earlier. So you want to make sure that you do have the sdelete tool installed onto your server. So I'm going to go and take a look here. And there's a command called sdelete, and this is a tool that you do have to download and make sure it's there. So to see that it's there and running okay, I'm just going to run sdelete to check. And it is there. So you want to make sure this is here because you're going to be using this tool to create zeros in a little bit. If you don't have it, just go ahead and Google it. It's called sdelete and it's a .exe file, so you should be able to download it from the Microsoft web page. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at our server and look at the disk management. And here's the volume we created earlier, 350 gigs. Let's go ahead and put it online and initialize it. And we're also going to put a file system on here. Quick format, and we'll call this zero detect is the name of the volume. And I'm going to say next and finish. So we'll have our volume, and the next thing we're going to do is put some data on here. So we want to fill it up with some data before we actually delete the data and put zeros and reclaim the space. So to load up the volume with some data, I like to use a tool called Dummy File Creator. You can use pretty much any tool you like, But to show you on my server here, I have a tool called Dummy File Creator. If I go to the Start menu, there it is. You can pretty much Google it. It's very simple, Dummy File Creator, and you can download it from the web. So we can kick it off, and it looks just like this. But prior to actually generating the data onto our volume, I want to make sure I have one other thing running, which is a CLI session into my array. So I have a tool called Putty. So make sure you have Putty or some other SSH tool as well. Kick it off and then enter the IP of the array. So we want to go into the array and look at the volume from the CLI level because it's a little bit more precise than using SSMC. Let's enter the username through PowerADM and log in with the password, and we are in. Next, we want to look at our volume. So we're going to run the command show vv-s to look at some of the more detailed information, and the name of our volume is called demo. I'm going to say star as a wildcard, and there it is. And let's go ahead and extend this for a bit so we can see the whole line. And there it is. That's our volume, demo vol 1, and we're going to focus on this column here. This is the used capacity column. So our volume right now is 350 gigs in size, but only 65 megs has been used. So now this is going to be the marker that we're going to view in terms of capacity growth and also capacity reclamation. So now we can actually go to the meat of our demo, which is to generate IO and load up the volume and then reclaim it. So back to our tool, Dummy File Creator. Let's go ahead and put some data on here, and we're going to say let's create a 150 gig file, and we're going to make sure it goes onto our D drive, which is the zero detect drive. That's it, that's fine. And now we're going to give it a name, dummy file, and we are going to say create. So now this tool is going to go ahead and kick off a bunch of IOs to this volume and generate some capacity growth for our volume. So we can go back to our CLI here and show the same command, show vv-s, and you see that the use column has grown, and we're going to slowly watch it grow as it creates this 150 gig file. There it goes again. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and let it run for a bit, and then we'll come back when it's finished. Okay, and we're back. The Dummy File Creator tool just completed, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at our volume. Of course, when you're doing this demo, you don't have to create a file that's 150 gig in size because it could take some time to create. For me, it took me about 5 minutes. So for you, if you want to shorten that time while waiting with the customer, you can create a smaller file. In any case, we're going to go ahead and move forward. I'm going to say OK, and we're going to go back to our CLI and take a look at what our size is now. 150 gigs in size, which was the file size that we chose from Dummy File Creator. So now the next thing we want to do to reclaim is first delete this file, and then we will go ahead and initiate these zeros from sdelete. So let's go ahead and go to our volume, open it, and there's that dummy file we created. We're going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to say yes to permanently deleting it. Okay, it's deleted from Windows, but it's not really deleted in terms of the physical capacity because Windows simply just marked it for reuse. So now we're going to go to our sdelete tool and kick off sdelete. So we're going to run the command sdel delete -z and the drive letter of the volume and say enter. So it's going to go ahead and scrub the volume and write the volume full of zeros, which will then send zeros down to the array, and the array will go ahead and release the space with the assistance of the 3-part ASIC. So let's go to our CLI putty session and take a look here. We'll run the same command, show vv-s, and you can already tell the volume has shrunken, and we're going to run it again, and you're seeing the space get reclaimed in real time. So it's at 129 gigs. Run it again, 125, 124, 123. So it's going to continue on until it goes all the way down, and we'll see the full volume get reclaimed back to the system. So of course, when you talk to customers, a lot of times they may bring up, is this something they have to do all the time? And the answer is no. They don't have to run this sdelete every time they delete files. They simply have to do it probably once every quarter, every 6 months, or every year whenever they want to do a sort of clean house on the array and reclaim some space. Or they can even write a script to run it every so often. So it's not something that's going to be burdensome. And on top of that, they're running with a more modern OS that supports the unmap command. This will happen automatically. So they don't even have to run the sdelete. The OS will simply communicate with the 3-part array and tell it that space has been deleted. So go ahead and reclaim the space.